Today we are looking at an object that might be found on one of the Solidworks certification exams. We'll go over how to build this object, a little bit about how to plan ahead when we're looking at it, and where to start with with what planes we'd want to work with. This object has a few unique features. For the most part, the only tricky part about it is the planes that are off of the normal three planes that SolidWorks starts you with. So with that, let's get started. What we will do here is we will draw this profile you can see on the side here, and we'll extrude the piece out to 100 millimeters. So let's start off by, I'll shrink this down so you guys can see the SolidWorks. We'll leave it open on the screen though so that we can see the dimensions that we're working on. I'll go to our right plane here. We're going to go normal to it, and then we will start a new sketch. We're going to use the line tool. And we'll just start in one of these corners here. And we can see that if we look up at our drawing, we have a total length of 200, and we have these little step downs here that are all the same height. So we'll just start here on the corner. We'll draw over, drop down, over, up, like I said, and you've seen in the past, you don't have to be exact with this because we'll go in a second and we'll give everything measurements. I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to drop down at an angle here. Come over. Make sure everything, when you're going, that everything runs on a horizontal and vertical lines so that you're getting the indicators there. That will help you when you're drawing everything to just get a rough start object of what you're looking at. Okay, so we've got that started. So now let's go into our smart dimensions and start throwing some measurements on there. There's a few things that we can do though before we do that. We can look at this drawing and we can see that each one of these small legs is the same height. They're all 10 millimeters. And we can also see that all of these lines, like the base of the object, are all on the same plane, and the base of the two legs are all on the same plane. So let's start off by selecting these four little short legs. You got to be careful here that you're selecting the lines and not the points, because if you do that, if you select the points, it will cause problems. And then we can just go over here and we can click equal, and that makes all of those equal. So that's a good thing to start off with. All right, so we've got that relationship going. We'll say okay, and then we can click this line here and hold Control and click that line there, and we have them horizontal. They're actually already horizontal to each other by default. And then we can click these lines here and do the same thing. So now that we've done that, we can go in and we can start adding in a few measurements. So our overall measurement is 200 millimeters. So our overall measurement here is 200 millimeters. So we're going to go up to our smart dimensions. I'm going to click on this line here. I'm going to click on this line here. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to say 200 millimeters. And then we can see that stretches us out, and it should give us a good representation now that we've changed this to 200, that everything else will kind of fall into its rough shape. We didn't draw everything exact, like I said, but things should be close now. So we have a height here of 40 millimeters, and we have a height here of 25 millimeters. Okay, so that gets us a little bit closer to where we need to be. We can see that this distance here is 100. And we can see that this distance here is 60. All right, so that gives us, automatically creates this angle up here and gives us our top part is done now. So now we have some distances on the bottom. This first one here is going to be 50. We know that the width of this piece is 37.5. So we say 37.5. And we know that the distance between these two pieces is 25. All right, and so then finally what we have is we know that this one's going to be 37.5 just by doing the math on these. But what we'll do is we'll go, the measurement we're given is that from this line to this line we have 100. So we'll go here, we'll click on this line, click on the line there, drop down, and it's 100. All right, and then so the only thing that we're missing now, and the reason why this line is blue, is that we're missing our height for these legs. And so if we look at the drawing, we see the height for those legs is 10. Click on that, we say 10, we say okay, and you see that I did it for all of these lines because we told them that they're all equal. So there we go, now this is fully defined, it's all gone black lines all the way around, and we have our gray square. We can say okay. Alright, now we want to go to features, we want to say extrude boss base, and let's flip it around so that we're extruding it backwards from this plane. And part of the reason why we're doing that is that you can see up here on the drawing that you have this cutout that comes off that face, this weird little cutout here. And so when we get to the point of doing this cutout, it will be easier if the object is running this way away from the plane that we're going to draw on, because then we can draw this cutout onto this plane and we can just extrude cut backwards versus trying to draw off of the face instead. We can just use the plane. So with that in mind, we're going to switch our direction that we're going to run. So we click this button to flip it, and our width here we can see is 100. So now we're going to go to 100. Alrighty. So that gives us our rough shape here, and we can say okay. And you can see there we go, we have our rough shape. So now that we've extruded this piece, the next step we'll do is the small angular piece on the skinnier part of the object. So over here on the skinny part. So to do that, we need to make another plane here. And so we can look at the drawing and we can see that the face of that raised piece is at a 20-degree angle in relationship to this flat plane here, so to this plane here. So what we'll do is we'll go up and we'll do reference geometry, click the drop down, choose plane. Now you're going to choose this edge as our edge to work off of, and then we're going to choose this as our reference plane. And you can see what happens is you get kind of this new reference plane here. Now what we want it to do is we want to make that at a 20-degree angle. So we'll click over here, and this brings up the degrees, and then we can type in 20. Now you can see that when we first do that, it gives us a 20-degree angle off of this face, but it's on the wrong side of the face. So we can flip offset, and that gives us a 20-degree angle now. And so now that will be our reference plane that we'll start our drawing with on here. So we say okay. And now we can go to that plane. We can right click on it and we can go normal to it, just like if it was any other plane. And we can right click on it again and we can start a new sketch. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw the part of the extrusion that is the main base piece. So what we'll do is we'll get our line tool up here, and we will start on the surface here. One click, go over here, come up a ways, click, go away, and then come back to it. And remember, that gives us the arc tool, and it will let us know when we're lined up, right? We get those dotted lines that lets us know we're lined up with both of those points. Click there, and then we can go forward and click up here, and we get our solid shaded area, which lets us know that that's a piece that we can extrude. Now we'll go to our smart dimensions, and so in our smart dimensions, we know that this distance here is 50. We know the distance from this line to this edge is 15. I've been having a thing where for whatever reason, my measurements are doing that weird scrolling thing. All right. And then we know that our top radius, even though it should have that defined, actually I know what we're doing here. We need to define this distance. So the distance of this straight arm is 40. All right, so now we have full black lines all the way around, so we know that we're fully defined. So what we can do now is click the check mark, and we can scroll this around. We've seen that it's not filled in, it's just drawn on this plane, right? So we can go to Features and Extrude Boss Base, and we'll roll back around. You can see now we're extruding up in this direction. We don't want to extrude in that direction. We want to flip our direction, and we want to extrude down, up, basically up to surface. So we can say that here, and it's going to go in that direction until it hits the surface, and we say OK. Oh, we got to rebuild there. Oh, you need to pick the surface. Sorry. There you go. And now it fills it in. It shows that it's doing it. And then we say OK. All right, so on this plan here, what we want to do is we're going to have two cuts. So we're going to have the pillar that we build up, and then we have the hole that we extrude out through it. We're just going to do it in 2 steps. It makes it a little easier. So what we'll do is we have our sketch open here. We're going to draw our first circle. And it's got a diameter of 25, so we know its radius is 12.5. We say OK. And then we can go to Features and Extrude Boss Base. And we know that we want this to be 15. So we put 15 and say OK. And there we go. And then we can go here and we can go to Sketch. We go here and we go New Sketch. And we can draw our circle here. Pull it out. And we see that our diameter is 12, so we'll make that 6. Say OK. And say OK. And we'll go to Features. And we'll do an extruded cut. And we want to go through all. And we say OK. And there we go. And you can see it punched a hole all the way through at that angle. All right. So there's that piece. So now we've got this other piece over here. And part of this other piece on this side is going to be similar. We'll have to create a plane and work our way through that one. So one of the first things we can do is we can go up here to this plane and we can hide it. And then also we had some of these sketches show as well. We can go back and we can hide those so that they're not in the way. It keeps the drawing a little cleaner. So to create this plane here that we're going to draw on, you can see in the drawing that that plane is 30 degrees off of this flat surface. So, but it would be if this surface was carried through. So we have 180 degrees for the full flat, right? So if we know if it's 30 degrees off of this side, it's 150 degrees off of this side. And that's the angle that we'll end up using. So once again, we can go up and we can go to our sketch pad. Nope, features pad, sorry. Do reference geometry, do a plane. We're going to pick this line again as our first line. And then we're going to pick this plane as our reference plane, okay? And then you can click on angle. And we will choose 150. And once again, we're coming 150 off of the plane on the bottom side here. So we'll need to flip that. So we flip our offset. And there you go. And now you can see that this has created that plane. It is 150 degrees from this pink plane over to the blue, which means that if you were to stretch this pink plane flat through, it'd be 30 degrees right here. And that's what the call out is for. So we say okay, and then we go about drawing our shape again. And so over here on this side, we can go to this plane. We'll go normal to it and see it flips it. And so we're on the bottom side of that, and that's fine. We're actually going to go and we're gonna start a sketch, and we're going to be on that bottom side again. But if you come up here and you hit the normal to, or you right click and you go normal to, we don't have that normal to there, so we'll go use that normal to there, and it will flip us around. And so now we're on the right side of this that we want to draw off of. So we'll go to our line tool again, and we can go here and click, stretch across. Like I said, I'm having this weird thing, so this is going to look a little goofy, and I apologize for that. And I don't know if it's something I need to restart on my machine or what's going on exactly, but I'm going to get this video out and then I'll figure it out. Okay, so that gives us our shape here. You can see it's blue shaded, so we've got a complete shape, and now we'll just go in and we'll start doing our smart dimensions. So if we look at the drawing, we know that up to this point here, and in reference to that, these side points here, we have a distance of 50. So if we click off of this line here and pull over, we get 50. And then we know that across the bottom, we have a radius of 35 on this upper circle, right? We can see that. So that we know that across the bottom, that if our radius is 35, then this length must be 70. So we can pull that down there and we can say 70. And you see that stretches out a little bit. And then we basically have that shape done at that point in time. It's fully defined, and then after that we'll go through and we'll do our the cutout in there. So you can see here we're suspended over the piece, and before, when we extended this, or we extruded this down to this plane, in this case we actually have two planes that we're going to extrude to. So if we go to feature, we do extruded boss base. Again, it flips us around because it's trying to be annoying. But we can see here that it's not going to go all the way down. And what we'll want to do is, instead of doing blind, we can click this drop down here. And we can say, before where we did up to surface, that wouldn't work, right? Because we have two surfaces. So we can actually go up to next, which will work. See, that works there. Or we could go up to body. Either one of those. If you do up to body, then you have to select the body, but this whole piece is considered a body, and then it would wrap that around. But up to next in this case will work. And we say okay. And here we go. Now we've got that part of our shape. So now we have to go and we have to draw the cross that's on the design with the circles in the center. So to do that, we're gonna, once again, I think we're gonna go in here and we're gonna hide this plane. But I'm going to go to our boss extrude here, and I'm going to show the sketch. And the reason for that is I want to know that, I want to have that reference point in the middle there. So now if we go here, we go normal to that face, and we start a sketch. Now we're sketching off of this face. And so once again, we have a hole that goes all the way through, and then we have this kind of cross pattern with the circle on the inside of it. And this can be drawn in two different ways. We're going to do the cross pattern with the circle inside of it first. So in order to do that, we're going to end up doing a few steps here to draw this. So we'll draw our circle first. Here's our circle, and if we look up there, it's kind of a little hard to tell on this. There's the diameter, and you basically get two diameters. And so on the drawing, if you you look up in the drawing here where you can see where the corner's at, and you have this call out that says it's got a diameter of 15, and then below that it says 25 sunk down at 5. And basically that gives us our information. The outer circle is going to be 25 for a diameter, and then the inner circle will be 15. So what we'll do here is we have our radius here, and we'll make that 12.5 because we know that our diameter is 25. We say okay, and we say okay on that. Now there's two ways. There's a few ways you could draw your X. I'm gonna do mine using the center point rectangles. I think it works all right, and so go up and click save, and maybe that will hopefully make this run a little bit smoother without all the artifacts we're getting right now. So no, we're still gonna get the artifacts. So we're gonna do a center point rectangle. I'm gonna bring it down, and I'm gonna click it on this edge, and so you can see there now that we're referencing this bottom edge. We'll say okay, and then I'm gonna draw another one, and we're gonna go over and we're going to draw it out, but I want to reference this edge here. Okay, and we'll say okay. And I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to show you why I did this bottom edge, because you have the curve coming off here, right? And you can see on that piece that we're going to want to cut down. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't referencing part of this edge of the curve while I was pulling over, because then we would miss part of the cut here. Where if I go out to this furthest edge of the cut, we'll cut straight down. And so we've got these two here. Our cuts, this is overlapping where we need to cut down, so it will be all right. And then we want to go into our smart dimensions for this, and we want to tell this to be 10. And since we did a center point rectangle, it's adjusting it side to side, from both sides in, so it's still centered around that point, which is what we want. And then we'll pull this off here and call that 10. All right, so now we've got that defined there. I don't know why. We'll say okay. This circle should be defined for our radius, but I'm not seeing it. It says 25. There we go. Oh, I know why. It's because we put in the dimensions when we were creating it, and until you actually do a defined dimension after the fact with the Smart Dimensions tool, it doesn't do as defined. So now we're going to do a cut on this, and I think if you guys remember, like if we were trying to do a cut right now, there's a ton of different parts to this, right? And so to clean all of that up, we're going to go up and we're going to pick our trimming tool. So we're going to say okay to our dimensions, and we're going to come up here and we're going to click trim entities. And we're on the power trim right now, which is what we want to be on. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to come through here, and you have all these cross lines. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here to come through and get rid of. Your dimension lines aren't going to be deleted by that, which is fine. We don't want them to be. But you're basically going to go through and with the power trim tool, trim all of these pieces out, including those two. It's kind of a mess, but it works. Now when we do that, we see we get one solid piece here. I think, we power trimmed those. That's just the drawing showing up still. So now we've got this part done, and so what we can do is we can say okay, and we can go to features again, and we can do extruded cut. And when we tip this around, you can see our extruded cut right now is going down 15. It only needs to go down 5. So we'll go here and we'll say 5, and we'll say okay. And there you go. You can see that it's now cut that design out. All right. So now if we go into this face here, we do sketch. We're lined up, and we still have our point here because we've got that line visible. And this is really simple. Now all we have to do is draw in a circle, give it a radius of 2.5 because its diameter is 5. And what's that? Oh no. Oh, never mind, I was reading that wrong. Our diameter, this outside one was 25. The one of this one is supposed to be 15. So our radius is 7.5. So 7.5. Say okay. We go to features. We'll do an extruded cut, and we'll do through all, and we say okay. Okay, now you can see that cut that hole through all the way there. So, and now we can go in and we can start hiding a few things again. So remember, we made this sketch visible. We'll hide that again, and we already hid both of our planes, so we're looking a little cleaner there. So the last thing we have is this little dished out piece right here. And this is why I said when we were starting, you want it to kind of pay attention and draw it on that right-hand plane. Because now we can go over here and we can right-click on the plane and we can say normal to. Flips us around, right? And that plane is on that face. So I'm going to go back to being normal to that plane again. And we're going to sketch there, right? And so all we're going to do is we're going to sketch a circle. We're just going to come up here. We know it's going to be roughly in this area. I'm just going to sketch a circle here. We'll say okay. Smart dimensions. Grab onto it, and we'll pull off of here. And you can see on the drawing that it's got a radius of 50. So its diameter is 100. So we want to give it a diameter of 100. All right. And right now you're looking at that and you're like, all right, we're cutting into way too much stuff, right? So then we have to look at some of the other information that we get here. And so we know that the depth from this line to this edge here, so the bottom of this line to this edge is going to be 5 millimeters. And we also see that, and this one's a little tricky on the drawing to know for sure. Like, it's the one measurement on the drawing that's a little iffy on whether or not it's fully defined where it's at. But we're going to say that this point here, where we go up on the angle, and this point here are in a vertical alignment. So to do that, we'll go over here and we'll click here, and we'll click on this point, push Control, and we're going to click on that point there, and we're going to say vertical. And that's going to shift us over a little bit here. So, and then what we'll do is we will go here, we'll say okay. We'll go to our smart dimensions, we'll click on this point, and we'll click on this line, and pull over here, and we'll say 45, right? So if we make this 45, then we know that the distance from this bottom part of this line up to that line there is 5. And so that gives us our cut. Now, we can't just go ahead and do an extruded cut just yet, because if you look here, if we extrude this cut back, and we're going to extrude it back to this plane, it's going to nick into this face right here, right when it gets to it. That face is going to be high enough. And you might do this and make that mistake initially. When I first built this, I did that, and I noticed that I had a nick there. So we're going to go back in and we're going to fix that. And so to fix that, what we're going to do is we're just going to actually take our line tool. We're going to go here and go back normal to this circle. And we're going to take our line tool. We're still inside that same sketch. And we're going to just go down to our circle here. I'm going to click on the line. And we'll pull up vertical and click on the line. And then we can push escape. And what that does is it gives us this line in the middle here, and then we can go trim entities, and we can come over here and we can trim that off. And so we're just trimming off that edge of the circle because we don't need it. And we say okay. And then our final thing that we're going to do to finish up this object is we're going to go in here and we're going to say feature, extruded cut, and we're going to say up to surface. And we're going to flip around here so we can see a little bit, and we're going to choose this surface. And you can see at that point in time, it runs us through and it cuts that piece out. And then we can say OK. And there we go. So that's our finished object. All right. And you can see it's got the little dish in there. We've got the cross there. Really the only thing that was not fully defined in the drawing, at least in my opinion, was the location for where the circle went. But I think, you know, if you look at how it's drawn, it looks like it's centered with this piece here, and this piece here is centered with that line. I think I don't see where it's called out. It might be called out somewhere in there, and I'm just missing it. So this is our finished object. There's a few ways that you can go about doing some of these things. You can do the pillar and the hole through, all as one drawing. Same thing up here. You can do offset lines instead of doing centered rectangles. There's no real one way to do a lot of these things. There's different tools. It's what you're most comfortable with, and it's you know, what you feel like you have time for. So go through this. Let me know if you get any questions, and we'll meet about it later. Have a good weekend.